I'm reinventing myself. I'm me and nobody else. Ooh, I can't help but smile.
Hello everybody, welcome to another one of these things. Today I'm in the Queen West area of Toronto, arguably one of the coolest neighborhoods in the world according to Vogue back in 2014. It actually got the #2 spot. Shimokitazawa is a neighborhood in Tokyo that actually got the #1 spot. But since then, actually, Condé Nast put out an article saying that the Ossington area of Toronto is the coolest neighborhood. Anyway, I still like Queen West, even though I'm on Queen East myself. But we're here today to do a little bit of a lens test. I've had the 56mm 1.4 from Sigma for quite a while now, and that would be a 85 equivalent, which I've done a lot of street photography with on the full frame 85. Well, let's see what we can get.
That very colorful background you saw me in front of was part of Graffiti Alley. This guy here is a YouTuber that was shooting some sort of music video for these breakdancers that were from out of town. I had to include this too. This is just around the corner from Graffiti Alley. It's Iron Chef Susurlee's restaurant. I'm going to have to make it back here when I'm feeling rich. So I guess Queen Westo says it all. I don't really like shooting other people's artwork. I do really like the typography. So there are a lot of interesting characters on Queen West and a lot of them on Queen East for that matter. I do love meeting people along the way and learning a little bit about their stories, and this lady here was sitting outside a storefront looking exhausted. Turns out that she was working hard trying to get her cafe ready for opening. Her name is Sahar. Look up the Artemisia Cafe. So I call this one Scratch and Win. Scratching to win. You know, if you don't play, you don't win. So I was shooting wide open for most of these. Yeah, even from a distance you can get some pretty decent out of focus backgrounds. So this is Antone, another person who it was a real pleasure to meet. He was selling some of his wares on the table behind him there. It was his first time selling stuff on Queen West. He's usually in another part of the city. And he was very happy to have his portrait taken. So this area of Queen West is also called the Fashion District, and you do get some really cool vintage shops, also a lot of fabric stores as well. So nearing the end of the day, the lighting of course started to really improve. I was able to grab these shots during rush hour of some cyclists on their way home from work. So I actually had to call it quits for this day and make it home to do some client work. But the following day, I was able to make it out to Dundas Square. And I've been to Dundas Square for other videos. It's kind of like a mini version of Times Square in New York. I guess a very mini version. Shooting wide open, and it was so bright, I had no issues with shutter speed. So I was able to grab this shot of this pretty serious guy on his scooter. A very patriotic man here crossing the street. So at the minimum focus distance, there is nothing left of backgrounds when you're shooting wide open with this lens. I'll show you 3 shots here. The first is this little fountain in the foreground, the fountain in the midground, and then another one with the background in focus and our foreground out of focus. This lens is razor sharp. These 4 very talented guys were looking for a place to set up, and I kind of caught this shot. It's just crazy how many talented people there are in the city. So the southwest corner of Yonge and Dundas is pretty famous for its street corner preachers. This guy here was spraying it as much as he was saying it, so I couldn't get much closer than this. That's why, even wide open, I wasn't able to completely blur out this background. You'll hear sirens quite often, police, ambulance, and fire. This cameraman and this television presenter waiting for the sirens to stop so they could start recording. So calling it a day, and on my way home on the streetcar, I noticed they were having a festival in the Regent Park area of the city, which is just north of me, and I was able to get this shot of this jazz singer. Now, that's another thing that this lens is amazing for, is doing event stuff if you have to sort of keep a bit of a distance. And so on my full frame, I'd use my 85 to do stuff like this. It would come in really, really handy in these venues where you didn't want to disturb a live performance.
So I have had some paid client work, thankfully, and it is what's had me go into day 3 on this video. But here we are back at my studio and using natural lighting, which I don't often do. I've got a reflector here on my left or your right to give me this fill here. So sorry for keeping you guys in suspense so long about the title, but as you probably know, the 56mm Sigma 1.4 is one of the best portrait primes that you can get for the APS-C system. It's probably one of the best compact, lightweight portrait primes for the APS-C system. I say that because there's a new kit on the block. A little bit more about that later. Now, when we went on our trip to Iceland, I found that I didn't even take this lens out of the bag. So why am I taking a portrait lens with me if I'm not even using it? The portrait lens I bought specifically because of its compactness and lightweight. My portrait prime doesn't have to be compact and lightweight if I'm not taking it with me on our travels. I'm not really constrained by weight and size anymore. And so what other options are there? Well, Viltrox has their 75mm 1.2, which is a very attractive prospect because at that focal length, which sits between that full frame 85 that I used to use and this 56, now that takes you north of 100 mil already on a crop sensor. But even taking those shots for this video, I found that I could have been a little bit closer. It might have been a little bit nicer to get shots that were maybe a little bit more intimate and stuff without having to actually physically be closer to my subject. So I have on occasion taken some portraits with my Tamron 70-300 at 70 mil at f4, and they've looked fantastic because of that 70 mil focal length, but of course that was also on full frame, but that 70mm focal length did really help knock those backgrounds out. So I'm guessing that a 75 even on APS-C at 1.2 will look fantastic. And what I've seen from other YouTubers testing the lens, it's only been out for a little while, the Viltrox lens. It's been really impressive from what I've seen. And so I am looking forward to giving it a shot, and it is why I'm selling this lens as much as I love it. I mean, optically and everything, and if you're looking for something compact that you can take amazing portraits with, this is definitely your lens. But if you're not worried about size and weight, maybe the Viltrox is the way to go. And I'll find out for you. I mean, that's part of the reason I'm here, right? To test these things out for you so you don't have to. There is someone apparently coming for my 56 tonight, and then I'll be ordering the Viltrox, and I'll get back to you guys on how that works out. So as usual, if you guys got something out of this one, please consider giving me a thumbs up. If not, that's okay too. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of these videos, please consider subscribing and turning those notifications on. Until next time, keep working to make your chosen idea a reality. Peace.